This is HBR News number 485, Hollywood on Fire, Newsom, This Is Fine, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everyone and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Hannah Wallen and Dr. Rannemercam. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week, so please be sure to join in the conversation in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News, we're going to be discussing the California fires and what that has to do with men. Various companies appear to be rolling back DEI, or are they? A passport bro has a tragic story to tell, which is sort of like our little, masterpiece theater, I guess. We're going to see that at the end and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So, I'll just give you a little backstory to it. So, when I heard about the California fire stuff at first, I thought it was tragic, but I didn't really pay it too much attention until I learned a lot of the news that sort of like emerged as a result of it, around how this happened and all of the various factors. And one of them had to do with the weirdly, the weird proportion of the strange pattern of lesbians that were running the fire department. And I thought, wow, that's odd, and Pink News had an article that I can no longer find. Maybe it's archived somewhere. It probably is archived. That was like celebrating the lesbian fire chief or the female lesbian people in charge of the fire department in California and how they're getting it done. And I was going to make that the after show because I thought it'd be hilarious because it's, probably one of the worst aged pieces of media in recent memory. But I couldn't find it. So instead, I ended up looking around Pink News for something else. And I have a couple things we could look at, but there are some articles that were written that are sort of like, trying to cope with what's happened in these fires. And I know there's more than just that's a factor, but I think that's one probably major factor. So anyway, we're going to be looking at Pink News articles.
It's worth pointing out that I mean we could show that clip of.
I could show that clip. I have it. You want to see the clip?
We might run it. We might run into copyright problems as many people have.
It's only 9 seconds.
Well, the main thing I think that's important about it is it doesn't really matter whether it's lesbians or people of a certain racial background or women in general or whatever. When we hire based on some criterion other than you're the best for this job, you meet all the qualifications, everything you're supposed to know, and you do it more than any of the other candidates, you get somebody that doesn't do as good of a job.
Yeah.
Like if we play the clip, is that the one where she's saying, if
here.
I can't pull you out of a fire,
yeah, then it's your fault for being in the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get into the story itself, but like in the patron show, I'm gonna look at. I have a couple of articles. This is about gaming. We try to keep the patron show stuff a little bit lighter. So so this is like DEI watchdog game rating site mocked online shows how soft the anti-woke gamers truly are. We'll find out. They're trying to score points on the chuds. And then I have this one, which I thought was really funny because it's relevant. Every LGBTQ plus character you can play as in Marvel Rivals. Apparently, this is what we need to know. This is like the most important information we need to get. And we'll look at probably both those and more stuff in the comments. If you want to join us on that for a good time, please consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to join us. You'll get access to all of the additional content, which includes patron-only content like after shows, which is like the one we're going to be doing today, as well as there's various community things going on. I think they have game nights on Tuesdays, and Allison has a writer's room that she does, and there people, they watch movies, they watch anime and TV, and they play games together. So, there's lots going on. It's a very fun little community. So please consider joining us. It's one of the best ways to help support the channel and keep it going. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that our content is no longer allowed on the internet, then please go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. Both of those have our archive links. All right. So with all that out of the way, let us get into the story. So first, I think I will play this 9-second clip. Our things are not monetized. I don't think they're going to come after us. And Allison had me play this
9 seconds, they won't come
when I
after
do the
it.
show.
And, you know.
Yeah, it's very short, but let's listen.
Strong enough to do this, or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Sorry.
Now, everyone's already said their thing about this, but nobody's, as far as I know, pointed out that this clip existed since long before the Los Angeles fires.
Mm-hmm.
It is just one of those things that's put out like an employee training exercise video, like that sort of thing. If it wasn't for these Los Angeles fires, this clip would have just gone under the radar, like every clip being played to every workforce across the Western world. Like, and people can just say, yeah, you know, if you're a man, fuck you. I'm a woman. I don't have to save you. And this is just included in all of these training exercises, all across the Western world, and it just, like I said, it just goes under the radar until a fire destroys thousands of homes, and then people look into the back catalog and go, was there anything that could have possibly caused this? Oh yeah, look, it's this thing where firefighters kind of just openly go, fuck you, I don't need to save you. It's that thing. That might be the thing that's making this happen.
I think real life is putting stand-up comedians out of work because they can't create scenarios that are so absurd that they're funny, because real life is doing it. Like, you can just talk about what's happening in the news and that will be enough. But anyway, we got to get into the story. So let's start. Yes, we're going to be talking about the fires. This one was given to me. This write-up was done by Mike J. Mike J lived in California. His family did move out of state, but he still has, you know, a strong attachment to his home. I get that as somebody who had to flee Chicago. So yeah, let's hear what Mike J. This is in his own words. So, a perfect storm of events have converged in Southern California, resulting in quite possibly the worst disaster the state has ever seen. A winter with virtually no rain, powerful and dry Santa Ana winds, plus an arid environment with plenty of unmanaged brush and undergrowth to use as fuel has ignited over 20 separate wildfires. 20 separate wildfires, ranging in size from less than 1 acre to well over 23,000 acres. Unlike most wildfires that happen in California, these have not been confined to mainly forested and uninhabited areas. These fires have popped up in major city centers and well-to-do neighborhoods of Southern California, such as Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange County, and Los Angeles. Making matters even worse, police and local residents have reported criminals using the opportunity to loot local houses and businesses. Police have reported the arrests of dozens of people engaged in such activities. They're arresting people now for looting? Wow. Even worse, some individuals have been spotted starting more fires, and some of these wildfires are suspected to be the result of arson or out-of-control fires started by homeless people, the homeless population. At least one person is in custody after admitting to starting one wildfire. As the chaos continues, animosity towards California leadership grows, especially as the full scope of the mismanagement and incompetence is exposed. From the lack of brush control to the thousands of gallons of fresh water that is untouchable due to it being used by a tiny endangered fish, Californian governmental policies have been on full blast since the fire started. While California Governor Gavin Newsom lashes out at Elon Musk on social media, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass clashes with Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley after Crowley criticized Bass and the role she played in the disaster after cutting the LA Fire Department budget by over $17 million last year. This is like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other. With just over a week since they started, the wildfires in Southern California are nowhere near contained, with new fires popping up every day as conditions continue to stay dry and windy. With over 40,000 acres burned and at least 24 dead to date, the future of the state seems bleak. And Mike, he added something else. I'm going to read his comments that he sent when he sent me the thing. I hope this is okay, Mike, but I thought that I would add this on. So he says, he wrote me a letter, a message in our Discord server and said, I didn't source this one, but I've been, as you may imagine, fully engrossed in this and its updates since it started. There really wasn't any room for it in the write-up, but bringing up how the insurance companies fled California in the last few months could be one thing. The most common thing people get wrong on that front is that they left due to malicious reasons, but in reality, they left due to Californian government policies, which didn't allow them to raise rates, which made staying in business in California impossible. Another thing I've personally been turning over is how this could be the very end of Southern California as an institution. Not the perfect word, but the only one that gets what I mean across. The celebs and other rich people are going to be in for a nightmare if they want to rebuild. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Building permits in California take years to move, and that's assuming these people even want to stay in the first place. The middle class that were either renting or mortgaged are going to be priced out of town, and the lower class will be demoted to homeless unless they can find somewhere else or leave the state. This might also be the final push that Hollywood needs to pack up and move the movie-making business to another state. I've heard that Las Vegas has been courting them for some time now. I'm willing to bet that they won't be the only business that flees the state, and it's not like businesses and people weren't leaving in record numbers before this happened. There's also the shadow of BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, who I'm willing to bet will make some sizable land grabs and investments into California to finally build up those 15-minute cities they want so badly, which is something I also heard that the government of California wanted to do with the Palisades. I'm just throwing that out there. So there's a number of factors here. The ones with public
there was
transit,
a plan for that.
yeah, the ones with public transit only, no private home ownership, renters, and everything is cashless payment. Just some scattered ideas for segment. Thank you, Mike J, for doing this write-up. And apparently, yeah, gruesome Newsom already referring to rebuilding of Southern California as a Marshall Plan or LA 2.0. This comes from The Independent. I'm just going to put this on the screen for you guys. Newsom sparked conspiracy theories by hinting at, this is how they would word it, of course, sparked conspiracy theories, even though he's literally saying that he wants to invoke a Marshall Plan to rebuild LA 2.0. What that means, I don't know. But this is what we're looking at. Yeah, like California is never going to be the same. What do you guys think?
It does mean land grabs, and it's the same thing that happened in Hawaii. The fires had a suspicious start. The local people, as well as people that have been paying attention to what's going on, do not believe the local officials' story regarding the fire. There was suspicious behavior by local authorities during the fire. There were obvious signs of arson. The fire was allowed to get out of control due to a bunch of factors that trace back to government mismanagement. And as Trump said, there's going to be the horror of this is not over. As they start sifting through the ashes, they are going to find bodies. There are going to be people that could not get out. And there are going to be people that could not get out that could not get help, because you can't always just get to somebody in a fire. And it's not just about whether someone, can carry someone out of a fire. It's about the size of the fire. There are times when it is so big and so hot and so dangerous that there isn't a way for somebody to survive getting in to get an individual out. And it can happen. Fire is really weird. It can move slowly, and then all of a sudden it can move so fast you don't have time to get away from it. And coming out around it and in front of it is a cloud of poisonous gas that can kill you without you realizing that you're being poisoned to death. And so there's a lot of factors there that they're going to find people that didn't make it out, right? So the population's going to be reduced, and there's going to be all kinds of excuses for land grabs. And these plans for these smart cities are not new. We've been hearing about them for about 5 years.
Yeah, didn't they
And,
do that
you
in
know, like,
London already, or try it out in the UK?
there are smart cities in the US already.
Mm-hmm.
There are cities in the US where you can't go anywhere, where you're not on camera, and law enforcement already uses it to find people. Where you're driving along, and if you don't get all the way through an intersection before the light turns red, you get a ticket in the mail. And it doesn't matter whether you were the one driving the car or one of your family members. That ticket that you get in the mail, that comes to you because it's your car. And then you have to prove you weren't driving if it wasn't you. And like, all that's already in place. There are plans for more smart cities. The city of Dayton, where I live, they're planning to become a smart city. Like, and then there seems to have been, there's starting to be a pattern of things happening where properties end up getting condemned, or people end up getting evicted. People's homes are getting taken. People are getting foreclosed on, right? Especially if their mortgage has a variable rate that can be raised, so they can be forced out by higher payments. And then all of a sudden, now that area is being redone, and it's going to be part of a smart city. But this is something bigger. They've created this disaster. Newsom, the mismanagement of the fire departments, the mismanagement of the water system, and the insurance companies. And I know people say it's not malicious for them to pull out, but they clearly didn't care. It's like they left people with a local insurance system that's a government insurance system that's not as good, rather than fight, lobby, campaign publicly that we're going to have to leave if this happens. And insurance companies do have a history. Like State Farm canceled my family after our home got struck by lightning. They canceled like within a couple of months. We got a notice after all of the claims were paid. That was it. You're out. We're not insuring you anymore because you actually filed a claim. So I don't give them a pass on pulling out. I know a lot of people are like, well, it was the government's fault, but there's more to it than that, because like this type of risk is what they do. And if they're pulling out because they're not making enough money, they had to have known that there were problems and not said anything. But in terms of the smart city thing, calling it a conspiracy theory doesn't make it go away, right? People in the area, people around the country have latched onto this because the information indicates it. The available information all points to it. That whether it's a full-on conspiracy or whether it's a combination of abysmal mismanagement and then taking advantage of the consequences to do something that takes away people's freedom of movement, either way, it's bad. And either way, it's malicious. And, deliberate incompetence, not caring about the effects of your policies on the people, when you're citing some other goal for them and so on, that's still malicious, because they can't just not do things your way if you're in government. So yeah, I'm this thing of claiming that people are crazy for thinking that the fires were deliberately set for Agenda 2030. There's too much obvious shenanigans going on for you to gaslight people over that, right? And there's too much obvious shenanigans going on to play innocent. So either the government is guilty of profound incompetence, and then doing damage to the people, as punishing people basically for its own incompetence, or there's a conspiracy, and it might be both. And I if you should watch, right? Because there's everybody's talking about this fire right now, all right? But you know what they're not talking about? Fact that people in Appalachia are still homeless,
After the
struggling,
hurricanes, yeah.
living in tents, being thrown out of emergency shelters because they've been there too long. Because not only
New Orleans is in worse shape than
shambles,
before
yeah.
Katrina. Like, it hasn't improved at all. So this goes way back, yeah.
Right. And I want you to remember, there was money for Ukraine, but there was not money for North Carolina or South Carolina. There was not money for any of the areas hit. Right? There was not money. FEMA didn't care. FEMA didn't go in and help. They kept locals. And let me tell you a little bit about Appalachians. If you can't come in and help them, they'll form a network. Right? There was a guy that actually has his own chopper, went in to try to help people, and law enforcement forced him out. And so he ended up talking about that. People with trucks, people with tools and so on, they'll go in and try to rescue each other. They'll try to rebuild. So if people are still in that condition in Appalachia, it's not just because the government didn't help them. All right. It's because the government actively stopped them from helping each other. People who are fully capable of doing so from helping each other. And I think the same thing is happening in the southern states. I know that we covered a story a while back where there was a scandal because one of the supervisors within FEMA had stated a policy of not helping people with Trump signs in their yard. Right. Which she made the claim that those people were dangerous by default, presumed dangerous, and therefore FEMA didn't have to help them, when the actual policy is more along the lines of somebody's got an unchained pit bull in their yard and it's barking at you and it's not wagging its tail, you don't go into that yard, right? The Trump sign's not a angry pit bull, right? A Trump sign is not waving a gun at you, but that was the policy, and that kind of thing has been happening for a while. So it looks like there is a pattern. Like, I can't blame people for suggesting there's a conspiracy. Every place that the government wants to facilitate the building of these smart cities, there seems to be a pattern of weird disasters leading to destruction of property, followed by a complete and utter failure of the systems that the government has in place that we are mandatorily obligated to rely on for help. And we're not allowed to help ourselves. We're not allowed to help each other. You have to rely on the government, and the government's going to fail you. But they'll buy the land, or they'll take it through eminent domain, and then they'll build these smart cities. That's basically it. It definitely looks like the plan. And if they don't want it to look like the plan, then maybe they should stop letting it happen. Maybe they should stop doing it. And people do need to pay attention to this. If your local politicians have been cooperating with something like that, you should take note. Remember it during the next local election. Did your city councilman sign on for something like that? Did your local mayor sign on for something like that? Did your local county commissioners sign on for something like that? Did your governor and your state legislature sign on for something like that? And if they did, they need to be primaried. Your local political party needs to primary them, and that other candidate needs to get in. Right? That's up to the voters. That's how to respond to this smart city thing. You need a turnover. If the local politicians are cooperating with BlackRock and any other world government organization that wants to do this, get them out, vote them out, replace them with people who will support your interests instead.
Mike?
Yeah. There's as has been addressed, there's always been this dichotomy between malice and incompetence. Every day, Hanlon's razor looks less like a razor and more like the withered handle of a plastic spoon. Hanlon's razor is the one where you shouldn't attribute to malice what can easily be explained by incompetence or whatever it is. Not only do I think it's a flawed razor, I think it's a bollocks razor. I think it's a psyop at this point. It's like the meme where there's an article titled "Here's why you should keep your windows open at night," and then it pans back and it's a mosquito writing the article. That sort of thing. Well, if we pan back from this Hanlon's razor thing, we might find that this Hanlon chap is a malicious bastard. This so-called razor is exactly what a malicious bastard, a malicious lying bastard, would want everyone to think. And when the likes of Gavin Newsom can exist in this world, the plastic spoon around him just shatters under the weight of all the coincidences. You can only become so inconceivably incompetent before it becomes like suspicious just how good you are, how talented you are at being incompetent. Indeed, how competent you are at being incompetent. Like hitting the wrong notes in a musical composition, hitting the wrong notes every time is more difficult than hitting the right notes every time. One mistake is commonplace. 2 mistakes in a row is normal. 5 mistakes in a row it's not unheard of. It's like the coin landing on heads 5 times in a row. I find it weird, but whatever. But 10 times in a row, all right, that's when people will start going, hang on, what's going on here? Fool me once, shame on me. I think you may have fooled me 10 times already. And when it's 100 times in a row, yeah, no, it's obvious now. The coin is rigged. It's heads both sides. Whatever it is, you know you're making mistakes, and you're doing it on purpose, and you know you're doing it on purpose. And yes, they are doing it on purpose. The only question is to what degree they know they're doing it on purpose. To quote Janusz Korwin-Mikke, based Polish MEP and Codger lookalike Janusz Korwin-Mikke.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Let's do the voice. A monkey is a much better voter than a socialist. If we assume there are 2 options, A and B, the monkey is voting randomly, so it's wrong 50% of the time. The socialist, however, is always wrong. And it's true. The oikophobic political radicals who call themselves socialists will do the opposite of whatever best serves their own people, because they think that's what's going to save the world by opposing the benefits of their own people. It's the Frankfurt School, but the Frankfurt School sifted through 5 generations of midwits until it's a fine powder. And now it's just us bad, them good. Question mark profit. That's why they always default to serving any people other than their own people, such as a bunch of Native Americans who want to save a random fish from some kind of inconvenience or get rid of the dam. Yeah. We'll get rid of the dam. It's only water. We don't need it. For what could we possibly need water in the desert? Yeah, no, fuck these people and their precious water. Someone else wants a fish. Anyone else wants to be given a fish for a day. Not even a real fish, a symbolic fish. And not even a Christian symbolic fish. That would be racist. No. If you want me to do a thing as your governor, I will first ask, who does it benefit? Who does it serve? The people who elected me to serve them? Then no, I will not do that thing. A pox on those unsightly wretches who are forced to pay for me to do things that I specifically will not do. I refuse to elaborate, and I leave. I skip on down the road singing like a scarecrow and wondering how this world could possibly be real if my obviously lying ass can possibly exist in an unsimulated universe. By the way, did the fish thing even work? Did you save the fish in the end? No. The fish thing did not work. The fish don't give a shit. And those Native Americans who told us to save those fish, they seem to have run away, dancing and smiling as they did so. I think they might have just been a couple of 4chan shit posters trolling us. This has happened before. After all, some men just want to watch the world burn. Most of them are in California. The rest of them are on 4chan. So wait. So we lost like 1 trillion gallons of fresh water for nothing? Yes, basically nothing. That empty reservoir that we emptied, we did that for nothing? Yes. Approximately nothing. And the $17 million we emptied from the fire department, and the 1,000 firefighters we emptied from their employment because they refused to participate in the Dysgenics program. The what? Doesn't matter. Can't talk about it here. Doesn't matter. But yes, it was all for nothing. The diversity, the equity, the inclusion, none of it has helped. It has only turned everything to shit. Who could have predicted this, folks? Who among us could possibly have foreseen this 10 years ago? Who knows? But anyway,
Dan Bongino.
And us here on Honey Badger Radio. But
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate around this subject about to what degree this is not incompetence. It is sabotage. And I'm not just talking about the arson itself. It seems the amount of fires that were started by arsonists with blowtorches or whatever were a more than 0%. And not necessarily less than 100%. For all we know, these wildfires could be 100% man-made.
Yeah. Well, in a way, they are. But you go ahead and finish your point. I want to say something.
I'm trying to allude to some kind of climate change thing that will destroy everything that man-made could be, but all of this could be man-made. But I'm not even talking about the malicious intentions of the possible potential alleged arsonists. I'm talking about the malicious intentions of Gavin Newsom and the machine cloud of legacy media goblin journalists around him who are always desperately looking for a way to blame everything on straight white men, but not Gavin Newsom. I mean, if someone told me that China is doing this, like the CCP has so many tendrils in the west coast of America that it's able to tactically demoralize them from within, I could believe that. If someone told me that Russia is doing that, I would go, yes, I've listened to Yuri Bezmenov explaining exactly how they intended to do that and have done that. Yeah, we've all seen that shit. And so it's very tempting to accuse the assorted warlords of California of being foreign assets, acting at all times with allegiances to foreign hostile forces. And yes, allegedly, that could all very well be true. Maybe we're being Cold Warred, like Sub-Zero Cold Warred at this point. Finish him. And maybe we're being four-dimensionally, psychologically invaded by foreign xenophobes. Foreign xenophobes? Is that... Have I rocked anyone else's world with that curious marriage of derogatives? Foreign xenophobes. How would that work? Oh, wait, yeah, no, it absolutely works. Why wouldn't it? Foreign xenophobes. It's clearly a thing. And it's clearly an adversary by definition. So why have I never heard those two words married together until now? I don't know, man. We live in strange times. We live in strange places in strange times. Have I gone off on a tangent? No, I have not. This is the point. Your political leaders do not hate you just because foreign communists are paying them to hate you. They already hated you. The seeds that planted those foreign communists in those foreign countries also planted the domestic communists in your own ranks. This isn't a war between nations. It's a war between all of humanity and all of Cthulhu. As Cthulhu marches from nation to nation, there's a certain darkness in every human being, a darkness that is susceptible to the titanic demon who is sometimes euphemized as communism. And we are all being tested. It's the same test that seems to face every major historical empire right before it collapses. And that doesn't mean we're going to collapse and fall like all the other empires throughout history collapsed and failed. We've definitely made it further than them. We have technology that makes it easier to tell the truth instantaneously, to tell the truth to people on the other side of the planet. We have the wherewithal to resist the collapse of information this time. We have the know-how to create civilizations that last not thousands of years, but millions. Yes, millions of years. It's that easy. All you need to do is take Gavin Newsom and ritually sacrifice him inside a red-hot brass bull. Now, I don't ask for much. I know you're all like, oh, you, Mike, that's your solution to everything now, putting people inside a red-hot brass bull. And yes, it is. I just want to ritually sacrifice people in the most painful possible torture. Maybe at some point I'll be reincarnated as someone like Newsom or Trudeau, someone who is subjected to the torture for which I advocated in this life. And you know what? Worth it. We are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, etc. And that all-encompassing consciousness that we all are needs to learn this lesson. It needs to learn not to destroy itself, not to burn itself to the ground so as to rule over the ashes. I hope Gavin Newsom dies in a fire. The universe owes us that irony, that cosmic irony. I'm not saying anyone should facilitate such violent events. I'm just saying, if there is any justice in this world, then random events will conspire to see Gavin Newsom burned alive, preferably at the stake, ideally for as long as physically possible. Not not a moment should go by before the excruciating agony of being burned alive has not burrowed into the last smoldering embers of Gavin Newsom's neurological pain receptors. It is the only way. Allegedly, I am, of course, being hyperbolically rhetorical. No, do not do any of these things. Do not listen to me. I'm not a real doctor. None of this is medical advice.
Yeah.
The one bit of
Can-
political advice that we've had in regard to this did not come during this situation. It came after the last attempt at assassinating Trump, when Dan Bongino pointed out layered incompetence is deliberate.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna
in
say
my
that.
opinion,
but-
this DEI shit and the environmentalist shit, all of the communist shit that has pretty much led to the conditions that caused the fire being exacerbated by the conditions that made it damn near impossible to fight the fire, and the conditions that kept people from getting out. So all the property was destroyed and all the people were still in there. That's layered incompetence, and it is deliberate. Just saying.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think that this is, like you said, it's deliberate in so far as how many layers of incompetence are involved. And the thing is, the people like the fire chief that thinks it's so great to be a lesbian fire chief because, it's important that people see somebody that looks like you when they come in to save you from a fire wearing all kinds of gear and a gas mask. But trust me, I'm a lesbian just like you. That is vainglory and ego that is being used to essentially create the conditions for this. It is on every level malicious, even for the stupid people that thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to be so important. I'm going to change the world, because I'm doing this job." When the mayor of the city went to Africa to celebrate the first female, leader in this one African country, I can't even remember. She was going there to virtue signal while California was burning. So it's layers and layers of egoism, narcissism, weakness, right, and pride that is getting people killed and destroying property. And I don't it's tragic, and Mike and Hannah said a bunch on it already, but I'm just saying, from my part, totally malicious. I don't care. Even if you're there was no way for me to know. Environmentalists, completely malicious. They don't actually care about human beings. It's anti-human. It always was. Sorry, that's the truth, right? And it's because there's this pride in feeling like you're a good person and essentially seizing a position of moral authority while you simultaneously hate yourself for existing, because you want to show people how ashamed you are. So anyway, that's I got super chats and we got to move on. So I'm gonna go ahead and just shut up. Meredith G gave us $5 and says, HBR News 485, sorry for the fires. A story from the fires. There is a story going around that a 60-year-old man stayed at his family home that his parents built in 1960 and used a garden hose to wet his roof and put out fires, and saved his family home by staying up all night putting small fires in the yard and keeping his roof wet. I guess she means putting out. He did it because he felt he had a duty to his family. Well, that is very based. And sadly, it seems rare. Thank you, Meredith, for that super chat. I did not know that had happened. So that's a pretty good bit of, wholesome pro-male information. Richard Pierre then gives us $5 and says, is this part of the Southern California where there is a predominance of eucalyptus trees that have the sap that is as volatile as gasoline? Does Gavin Newsom happen to own a violin by any chance? In other news, Andrew Tate might be in the running for the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Yeah, I saw that. I'm not taking the bait. I heard him announce he was going to run for Prime Minister. But I don't know. Right now, it just seems like it's kind of like bait. So I'm going to wait until we see if it actually goes anywhere. And then I will report on it. Hmm?
It would be they could elect a rock, and it would be better than the current situation.
Sure.
So I I'm gonna laugh my ass off if this happens.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't want to get into
I know.
into that because that's another story. But thank you for the super chats. If you guys want to send a super chat, just go to feedthebadger.com/just a tip. And this will, we'll get more of the support because YouTube takes a chunk. Rumble takes a smaller chunk, so you can also send a Rumble rant. But yeah, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next story. So I saw one story about this, and then I decided to do a little digging and found out that there is a pattern. A lot of companies are rolling back their DEI policies, or they're saying that they are. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm just gonna run down a list. So one, Facebook is Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is terminating major DEI programs effective immediately, including for hiring, training, and picking suppliers, according to a new employee memo obtained by Axios. Why it matters, the move is a strong signal to Meta employees that the company's push to make inroads with the incoming Trump administration isn't just posturing, but an ethos shift that will impact its business practices. Context, Meta said it was changing the course because the legal and policy landscape surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the United States is changing, per a memo by Janelle Gale, Vice President of Human Resources. And then I thought, okay, so that's one thing. And I know that Mark Zuckerberg's been doing the rounds trying to get people to say, I'm gonna reevaluate my position, and I know that we don't trust him, I myself included. He just seems to be looking at where the wind is blowing, but that's and that's fine. Like, if you get people to react out of fear or concern for their own careers, as opposed to out of a sense of moral duty, at least we're getting that, or at least there's talk of that, which wasn't even entertained for the last 9 years. But that's not the only company. It's not just Meta. Walmart has announced a rollback of its DEI policies, including not renewing certain equity commitments and pulling out of diversity-related indexes. Ford Motor Company has scaled back its DEI efforts, particularly regarding public participation in social issues. Harley Davidson has ended several DEI initiatives in social media amid social media backlash. Weird. Harley Davidson. Lowe's has revised its approach, combining employee resource groups and stepping back from external DEI benchmarks. Boeing dismantled its global DEI department and focusing on operational issues. You mean like getting your planes to work? Tractor Supply announced its elimination of DEI roles and goals, shifting focus to other environmental commitments. Brown-Forman, the maker of Jack Daniels, has pulled back from linking compensation to DEI goals and ended participation in certain diversity indexes. Caterpillar has made changes to DEI policies, focusing more on business operations. John Deere has moved towards a quality-based workplace, abandoning DEI policies. Toyota has refocused its DEI programs, notably by not sponsoring certain cultural events. Meta Platforms, I already mentioned. Amazon has adjusted or scaled back their DEI efforts. Microsoft has been mentioned in discussions about scaling back DEI initiatives, which means they haven't done it yet, but they're talking about it. Molson Coors has made changes to its DEI strategies. McDonald's has joined companies pulling back on DEI initiatives. Nissan is listed among companies rethinking their DEI approach, and Starbucks has been noted for changes in its DEI policies. Now, I just want to say before you guys jump in there, none of this means it's happening. Sometimes, actually often, when these people say we're going to be scaling these things back, or we're going to be changed, it usually just means they're going to change the language. So this is actually not bad that we have this list, because we still see companies we should be avoiding, but or at least be very suspicious of. I think that it's just been my philosophy that people should always be allowed the room to repent, or at least make good on changing things. So I will give them the space, but I'm not giving them necessarily the benefit of the doubt. Although this does seem like there is a vibe shift going on in the corporate level, because the election basically, for better, essentially it was a message that was sent to these companies that said, we are not cool with this, as in American people. And I think that in at least some of these cases, these companies are learning that what they thought the consumers wanted is not actually like at what they wanted in terms of like how popular these positions were. So anyway, again, I just wanted to tell you that this is what we have heard. This is the news show after all. So I give you guys the floor. You can say whatever you want.
They never ever have thought the public wanted this. They know the public doesn't want this. This is not about serving the public or helping people or being a good company or being nice, being honest and forthright and doing good in the world. There is nothing about DEI, political correctness, bridge, which we already know about. None of that is altruistic. None of it is innocent. There isn't a company in the United States that is doing this because they think it's great and they think that people are going to like it and they think that it's going to be helpful for their employees and give people chances that they deserve and aren't. None of that is true. None of what they tell you about this is true, right? They're doing this because BlackRock and other world government organizations that are in control of funding these companies can get and in control of their banking impose these policies. And they impose them by doing things like, well, we're not going to extend you the credit that you've asked for if you don't do this. Or we're going to give you economic rewards for doing this. You're going to be treated better. You're going to get preferential interest rates, or you're going to get access to larger amounts of credit and so on. And so this is all greed. This is all done out of greed. These companies do not need BlackRock to exist. They need BlackRock to get bigger and make more money. Some of these companies are owned by BlackRock, right? And so they have to deal with the World Economic Forum's the social credit score for corporate entities is the ESG score. And if their ESG score is not great, their growth shrinks, right? Their growth slows down. And now to these companies, that's a cut. Just like you would have heard about various politicians threatening to cut Medicaid or cut Medicare or cut Social Security. And that quote unquote cut is actually smaller growth than the other side wants, right? That's basically the same thing that's happening here. Is these businesses would see smaller growth if they don't pander to these interests. Well, these interests are not about helping you. They're about controlling you. They're about creating a set of rules to follow that lead to breaking down your boundaries and convincing you to give things up, and convincing you to be basically more open to being ordered around, told what to do, told how to live, told how to love, told who to associate with, who to do business with, where to go, where to live, and so on. Like the whole thing. And so when you see this stuff being quote unquote ended by a company, that's also not altruistic. They haven't learned their lesson and realized that the thing they were doing wasn't the right thing, because they were never trying to do the right thing. So they're not going to learn that wasn't the right thing and this other thing is probably the right thing. They don't care what the right thing is. They don't care what's best for you. They don't care what you, the customer, want. They care what they can make you do or what they can manipulate you into doing. And they care about how they can weave their way around your rights to get to your wallet and use it to finance more growth in their future. So we already know about Bridge. We already know that this isn't being eliminated. It's being rebranded. It's not even being withdrawn and then rolled back out as something else. It's being relanguaged, right? Well, we can't describe what we're doing in these terms anymore. So we have a new set of terms that we're just going to paste over those terms. And we're still going to continue to do the same thing. And we're still going to engage in that same layered incompetence. And that's what you're seeing in front of you right now is, oh, well, they saw through that mask. It's time to put on the new mask. And they've already slid the new mask under the one that we all know is just a mask. So that when they pull the old mask off, they're already masked. Right? That's what's going on here. And this isn't going to change. The World Economic Forum is not going to stop doing this. Right? The companies that have signed on to follow the goals of the World Economic Forum, they're not going to change what they're doing either. None of this is going to stop. Right? The only way to protect yourself against it, and again, this is a very tiny way, but as a voter, you look at politicians that are more savvy, that want to make it illegal to discriminate, based on even based on affirmative action factors. Right? That is pretty much the only way to put a stop to this. And even then, companies will try to sneak around it. You saw that with universities, where universities were told that they could not make race a part of their admission process, a part of how they determine things like eligibility and scholarship potential and so on. So instead of making race something that you just write down and they consider that, what they ended up doing was you write about your life experiences, and people who write about experiences that are affected by being an ethnic minority are more likely to get picked. And that's seriously the way they changed it. Oh, well, you can't tell us that you're this ethnic minority or this gender, this religion, whatever, and get money that way. But if you describe your experiences and we ascertain that you are this or that minority, this or that protected class, well, we'll just use that instead. So it has to be a situation where it's not just illegal to discriminate, which it already is, but it also has to take the path of including discrimination and that's a type of reparations, whether they call it affirmative action, DEI, bridge, political correctness, doesn't matter. And there has to be a punishment for it. It can't just be the individual that got discriminated against gets paid off. Somebody should go to jail for it. If you get caught keeping somebody out of their economic status, keeping them out of improving it, whether it's keeping them out of university, keeping them from getting a job, keeping them from being able to do business with a particular company on the basis of discrimination, including affirmative action type discrimination, jail time. Right? Yep. And yeah, that's one way that actually you could manipulate your government to solve this. But you would have to have people in place that would be willing to take that step. You'd have to have people in place that would be willing to dig into how companies use legalese to get around stipulations that they can't do these things and close the loopholes. and they would have to be willing to engage in enforcement. Have to be willing to send human resources managers that are going to go on TV and cry about how their husband and kids are going to have a rough time without them, and they didn't do anything wrong, and they were just trying to help people, and they don't deserve to go to jail, and send her to jail anyway. And yeah, the reason I said her is because many people think of these policies as something, they'll see Klaus Schwab's face behind these policies, stuff like that. And Klaus Schwab is pretty much, he's an architect of this, right? But the builders and the shakers, the movers, the drivers are millions of women around the country who run your human resources departments in your workplaces, and the places where you shop, and the places where you go get medical treatment, right? The places that you use for public transportation. This is a woman-run industry. And the women that are running it need to face repercussions because they are using it mostly against men.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, and it's day like 60 something of will they put the woke away, and contrary to popular belief, well, anything would be contrary to popular belief, but in general, it looks weirdly as though woke, to some degree, is being put away, at least in the private sector. The private sector having been endlessly incentivized to wallow in the woke, they are nevertheless beginning to put it away. They are beginning to tell themselves, this doesn't seem to be working out in the tentatively named free marketplace of ideas. It sounds good on paper, the papers that we're getting from them, their academic institutions, but in practice, our customers are seeing right through this bullshit. And it's probably because our customers are not being paid off by George Soros. There's not even enough money on earth to do that. There's no crime family on earth that has enough influence to convince the general populace that black lesbians should run everything. Like, you really are out of your depth at this point. It's been a fun experiment. It really has. But it would be great if we could conclude the experiment, admit that it was bollocks all along, and get back to that thing where we didn't tell straight men to fuck off and to go fuck themselves just for being straight men. And anyone remember that? I'm old enough to remember that when that wasn't a thing. But again, I didn't grow up in California. But I grew up in a country that's been huffing the fumes of Californian degeneracy for my lifetime at least. Born and raised by those who praise control of population. Well, everyone's been there, and I don't mean on vacation. Firstborn unicorn, hardcore soft porn, and so on and so on. Like, I don't want to blame America for this iteration of Marxism. After all, the initial iteration was European. Marx was indeed European. Chinese warlords took that model and turned it into the CCP. American warlords took it and turned it into DEI. And now both of these things have backlashed into the homelands of Europe. And somehow we've become the canary in the coal mine when it comes to, let's see what happens if we flood the population of one continent with the population of another continent. Spoiler alert, it's not a good idea if both of those continents were already heavily populated. Yes, that does mean it was different from the Americas and in their situation. That the Americas were never heavily populated. Certainly not like Europe and Asia were preloaded with heavy populations. But yeah, DEI is not ending. It is not being put away. Some of it is being pulled back locally and regionally, but they're not admitting defeat. They are way too far gone to ever admit defeat. They're just tactically retreating. They are consolidating their forces as best they can, and they're going to strike back, like the Empire struck back, using some other form of technology, probably AI. We're finally going to figure out the economic returns of sacking all the overpaid human shills and replacing them with AI. You thought 2024 was over the top, ladies and gentlemen. 2025 is the year when AI overtakes. It'll be the year when the dead internet theory becomes reality. There will be no more humans on the internet, relatively speaking. I think that's why the Democrats seem to be handing over this presidency to the evil orange man. They seem to be just uncharacteristically just giving up. But they're not giving up. They know it doesn't matter who the president is anymore or who's in charge of the House or the Senate. It's about who's in charge of the AI. Over the next 4 years, you'll see more fake videos than real videos. And you won't be able to keep up with what's real and what's not. You're going to need the analytics of AI to help you determine what is AI and what is not. It's going to be crazy. Here's to another 4 years of ever escalating WTF. To that, I will indeed drink.
All right.
I hereby drink. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess on the one hand, you know, it does show that they can no longer simply ignore what, you know, the population of the private citizens have to say. But they are committed to this because they always double down, they always lie, and they always project. So they're going to continue. They're just going to try and rebrand it. And I think that we should just remain vigilant and, you know, encourage them to change, but don't expect it, and just be ready to call them out when we find the new buzzwords. We should just share the new buzzwords. Here's the new buzzword, right? Because even bridge is becoming like exposed, so they're probably going to have to change it again. I know there was something about belonging, you know, and some other ways that they did this. So, you know, just stay the course, hold. But all right, so I got some super chows, and we're going to move on to the last story. Richard Pierre gives us $5 and says, I forgot to mention that in light of the possible TikTok ban, a lot of Generation Z is jumping to an application called Red Note, or in Mandarin, the name means Little Red Book. So from one Chinese app to another Chinese app, okay. what can we do other than like get Western people to make better apps, you know? Then Richard Pierre app, I guess he changed his name or something for this one, sends another $5 and says, something that I remember about the early iPhone versus Android battle was that an app developer would get anything into the iPhone or app store without having the code vetted by Apple to ensure that it didn't have any nefarious functions such as data harvesting, and the Android side marketing them as a freedom alternative. Well, that's gone. I don't think nobody even bothers with that pretense now. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for the super chats. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any super chows or anything. Sometimes they don't come in, but I think that I've been better about that. So appreciate you guys so much for the comments and continue to contribute to this conversation. That was a mouthful. We're going to move on to the last story. So this one doesn't have a write-up. It's just a video, because this is the only thing people are sharing around. There isn't really like a written article about it, and it's kind of like a niche subject. So here we have story of the tragic story of the 59-year-old passport bro. And let's listen to this. You guys see it? Okay, you should be able to hear it. It's 5 minutes long, but it's from Wolfstar Hip Hop, and I'm just gonna put fair use on the screen here, so that that just so you know, this is fair use. Okay, please. All right, here we go.
Well, it didn't take long. It only took 2 years, literally to the day, December 27th, for my Filipino wife to become fully Americanized, hate everything about me and what I provide, and decide to leave. Yeah, welcome to the shittiest post that I'm ever going to make. There's a lot to it, and I'm not going to go into it, okay? But suffice to say, after providing and going on the Disney World trip, which included the funeral for my mom, I got up to day 6, I think, on that, because it all broke down at Magic Kingdom. Fucking ironic. And I didn't post anything after that, because when we got back from Orlando to St. Simons, Georgia, I was greeted with the announcement from Jayanne that she wanted a separation. And then I discovered through text that she had been discussing this with her family and making plans to also take the children. So that's heavy, right? That's a nuke. And I'm gonna go into my bunker. So I came downstairs in my nice 4-story mansion and just stayed by myself through Christmas Eve and through Christmas Day. And I missed Christmas with my children. My in-laws, my mother and my father-in-law, and Jayanne, they proceeded to open the presents without me. Presents all of which I bought. Yeah, the separation is a separation. I'm lucky enough to have a big house, and the logistics of it can be met right away, but I spent Christmas utterly by myself. And it's coming up on New Year's Eve, and I'm still alone. Because there's no communication from her. Why? Because she's communicating with her parents. She has the total backing and validation of her parents, plus TikTok, all external sources of validation, and it's my position, my feelings are not relevant. She's got it figured out. She's got a plan. I'm waiting to hear what the plan is, and we'll see what happens from that point. But I'm pretty. I'm at peace with what has occurred, what could occur. I am done being Mr. Fix-It. Fix-It Felix. I'm not going to be the simp, nice guy, Fix-It Felix anymore.
All right, I'm gonna stop it there. So you guys got the sense of it. So he was a passport bro, found somebody, and then stayed with her, married her, etc., made her a citizen, and the moment she got Americanized, she divorced him. Like basically right after that. So passport bros beware. Because there's I mean, women are women wherever you go. So
there's simply no substitute for values. And you know, a lot of people think that because foreign countries do not have the legal system that's in the United States, or because historically they've had values that are better than what the women in the United States have right now en masse, that they'll find a woman who is genuinely trustworthy, who wants to be a partner, who will appreciate the things they do for her and love her and love them and take care of them in return. And it's as much of a gamble going to another country as it is here. The big difference is if you take your time in another country where the family values are more prevalent and prominent in the culture, if you take your time getting to know the in-laws, and you take your time getting to know the woman before you embark on a serious relationship with her and so on, and you actually do the homework, you have a better chance in some foreign countries. And the one he went to is one of them. To find a woman whose values actually align with yours, who actually wants to be a partner and raise a family and so on. But it's not an instant process, right? The very few guys I know who have done this and have done it successfully didn't go find somebody, go on a whirlwind, dating tour and then get married. They spent time, and they put a lot of effort into making sure before they got married. And it's basically what you have to do in the current environment. And even that is not a solution to the current environment. The only solution the only thing that will work, the only thing that will ever genuinely protect men from what he's going through right now is eliminating the payoff for women in divorce. Right? And that's going to take a lot of legislative reform. So groups like the National Coalition for Men are fighting in various states for equally shared parenting rights, the elimination of alimony, and child support reform that allows for, in circumstances where equally shared parenting is done, like 50-50 shared parenting, that child support doesn't need to be paid because the kids are with each parent half the time, right? Unless the parents come up with an agreement of their own, which you have a right to do. You have a right to make your own decisions. And that's the only thing that's the only fix for this, right? So take the discrimination out of the family court system. It's a much harder road, but it's the one that actually ends at women will not be able to do this. And that's going to have to include reforming the Violence Against Women Act. Because right now, women can bypass all efforts at fairness in family court just by lying about you, claiming that you did something you didn't do. They don't have to go to criminal court to prove it. All they have to do is fling the allegation. And unless you can prove yourself innocent beyond a reasonable doubt, you're fucked. So yeah, it's that's what needs to happen. That's what men need to do, is support groups like the National Coalition for Men that are fighting for reform, justice for men and boys in the UK. I think there's another one that Fathers for Justice in the UK also. These groups are fighting for reform of family court and of intimate partner and sexual violence law so that equal treatment will be enshrined, and not just in a little caveat that says, oh, you can't use this law to discriminate, but here's all the ways that the law discriminates on its own. But that it actually has to be reformed and also due process restored. Like, those are the things that you got to do. So, like, not just listening to us, but actually visiting the National Coalition for Men website, Justice for Men and Boys website, Fathers for Justice website, and seeing what you can do to contribute to their efforts. What are they doing that you can, if they need people to write letters to politicians, if they need money, if they need people to show up at protests, like, those are things that we can all do. And everybody, even if it's just a small part of what's being done, even if you're just one of 100,000 people writing letters to the president, or 1,000 people writing letters to your government, or 100 people writing letters to your mayor, it's still a big difference. It still makes, those efforts require that kind of crowdsourced communication and assistance. Right? They need to see that. So definitely go check out those groups and see what help that they need that you can offer. And guys that go through stuff like this, we may not be able to prevent it from happening to men today, other than to say don't get married. But if you want a better future, that's the way to go.
Anybody remember that really cute romantic comedy that came out in 1990 with Gerard Depardieu called Green Card, where he's an immigrant that marries a woman so that he can become a citizen, and like they fall in love over time. Movies lie to you guys. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, Mike, do you want to say anything about this unfortunate story? I mean, he kind of, I think that he kind of brought it on himself too, though. Like, he married somebody half his age. And yeah.
You'd think I would have something to say about this on account of being a passport bro. I quickly realized that I'm never going to be able to find a British woman who doesn't hate men. So I cast my net wider to the rest of the Anglosphere, and I was eventually able to find a woman who doesn't hate men. And like, I don't know how to offer advice to anyone else. I think I was able to experience this because not because I got famous, but because I was able to express myself on a wider platform, and at that point, I was able to cast my net wider, like 4,000 miles wider. I'm not I don't know how to give advice to other men because I got pretty lucky by being able to cast my net so wide. I guess I can just say cast your net wide.
Yeah.
You may think you'll be able to find a life partner in the girl next door, but that's probably not going to happen. The girl next door probably hates you. The girl next door is probably a raging feminist who wants you and your entire family dead. So, I'm not going to say you should go so far as to find someone in the Philippines. I'm not even going to say you should go so far as to find someone in the USA. It worked out for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to work out for you.
Not according to our divorce rate, it's not.
No, yeah. I don't know. Get involved in our community.
Yeah.
And then this the best chance you'll be able to find a woman who doesn't hate men. Like, I know that sounds conspiratorial of me, but a woman who doesn't hate men really is a unicorn. They are out there somewhere. Not necessarily by the websites that you think are going to supply you with these things, but just indulge in a hobby such as men's rights, and then eventually maybe you'll find a woman who also indulges in that hobby and doesn't hate men. I don't know what to tell you, folks. It's awful out there.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty bad.
just make the best of yourself. You don't need a woman. You don't necessarily need a woman. Work on yourself first, and then maybe a woman will come along who seems to love you for some unknown reason, and you latch onto that unknown reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. You laugh about this stuff, but the fact is, the advice that I usually give is that values matter. Values and character matter more than any other aspect of the individual when it comes to forming relationships. If your values don't align and you're not with someone of good character, then you're putting yourself in danger. And you took the time, and you guys didn't jump into, like, just dive into, well, we just met today, let's start a relationship. Like, you guys got to know each other. You spent time talking.
It's been 10 years of
you
Honey Badger
learned a
Radio.
lot about each other before you decided that you were in a relationship. And it's an excellent example. My husband and I knew each other for a long time before we started the relationship that led to our marriage. And we've been married. We've been together since 1998. We've been together since 1998. So there's no substitute for time, for getting to know each other, for understanding the values that each other has and how those values align, and learning from each other and teaching each other and so on. You cannot just jump into a relationship. And it's one of the reasons I do kind of encourage MGTOW. It's not the only reason, but because if somebody is determined to not get into a relationship, and one finds them anyway, they're going to go through that process of we're not in a relationship, but I will trust this person to be close to me. I will spend time learning about this person. We're going to talk about things that you wouldn't necessarily talk about with strangers, and your values and your interests in life and everything. And then when you finally do decide that it's a relationship, you have already built the scaffolding, you've already built the foundation, and building the relationship is quite a bit more of a stable process as a result of that. And unfortunately, we have this, I think a large part of what has led to the high divorce rate, the rate of women hating men, the rate of women being willing to just completely eviscerate and destroy a man. Like, that's all caused by hookup culture, by jumping into relationships because somebody is hot, or somebody is popular, or somebody has money, or the 3 6s or whatever, and not because you have values that align, and not because you have goals that are aligned, not because you admire the other person's character, and so on. And I think that's something that, that was another woman fueled thing, right? That was feminism, feminist fueled sexual revolution. Stop judging women for being sluts and all that. But what it did was destroy women's ability to make relationships, and it took away all of men's fail safes. Like, we don't do this unless the following conditions are in place. And so it made men vulnerable, and it made women dysfunctional. And the result ended up being this huge divorce rate, and this huge rate of women using the court system to abuse men and children. So yeah, like the way Mike and Lauren did it is the way to make a relationship. This instantaneous stuff, it's bullshit. Don't do it.
But do try to join us on the meetup coming up on the 19th of this month. I think we're basically going to be doing a meetup here in Roanoke. Is that fair? Am I like getting ahead of myself?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
On
the
the
19th, it's
19th.
Sunday. Yep. And Hannah, you're going to be leaving Dayton on the 18th. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I
So,
want to
Yeah.
not have to be driving right before the meetup and then go to the meetup and then
Yeah. And then have to
crash
drive
in the
right
hotel
back.
and then go to because I'm
Yeah.
driving home after the inauguration.
Yeah.
So
So
Unless something comes up where we need to extend my stay,
Yeah.
but I'm that's the plan. So I will be there a night early.
Right. So we're gonna do a meetup on the 19th, like afternoon or something. I mean, it's a Sunday,
Yeah.
so I have church. But after that, we can go to do the meetup, and it's gonna be at Five Guys, my local Five Guys Burger and Fries, because I think it's just appropriate, and it's great. We
Yeah.
love Five Guys. It's actually good food. And I'm not sure how to do this. I mean, I have the address. I can put it out there now for you guys, but we could also make like a post on the website or something about it so that you guys, if you want to come down, because we're going to the inauguration on the 20th, which is the day after, but the day before we're doing a meetup in my hometown. I'm about 3 and some change hours away from Washington, D.C., and I've never been there because when I was living there, they had giant fences and military presence surrounding the White House. And I was like, well, I don't think I want to visit, the capital of the country in such a state. But if it's going to be changing in terms of like the mood, if the vibe is going to be different, then yeah, I think I would like to check it out. So we're going to be doing that. Five Guys is one of my favorite places. Yes, it certainly is. What's going on in
good food.
Yes, we're going to DC. We're going to be there the 20th. It's going to be Hannah, myself, Mike, and Lauren. Mike and Lauren, who are you guys? You're like staying with family or something, or do you know?
Lauren has family. She has an aunt, I believe you'll call it, in the DC area. I don't. You'll have to ask her exactly.
We'll figure it out. Well, if she wants to come down.
How many people her aunt can accommodate?
Oh, well, we'll talk about it more in the patron show.
This is something I assumed y'all had already talked about.
Oh yeah, I've got a hotel booked and everything.
Shows,
so.
and I had just forgotten about, because I'm always drunk when it comes to these after shows.
It's true.
I don't know how much I've forgotten about these conversations we have in these after shows.
Hopefully less than you remember.
There we go.
But yeah, please do make me remember this time.
We will. We will. So
we will wave the magic wand over your head, which is not the same as bashing you in the head with a stick. And,
yeah.
And you will remember.
So the meetup is on Sunday the 19th at in Roanoke, Virginia, which is southwestern Virginia, about 3-point-something hours away from Washington, D.C. And this is where I live, and it'll be me and Lindsay and Mike and Lauren, hopefully, and Hannah. And whoever else wants to show up. And the Five Guys is, I'll give you the address, write it down if you want to show up there, 4234 Electric Road, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018. And we'll like put out like an official post in the Discord server, maybe on the website if possible. So anyone who's interested in coming down and just hanging out with us, feel free to do so. And we hope that we see you guys there. And, we can go from the Five Guys is in a mall, and there's like other stuff there. There's, a theater and there's other restaurants and whatever.
Oh, nice.
And Virginia's pretty like, it's not, there's snow on the ground right now, but it's generally like a pretty, mild winter here. So, you guys can probably do that. We will follow you up with the details again, but that's what it is. Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Sunday the 19th. Next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. No, wait, it is this coming Sunday. Wait, where am I here? Yeah, it is this coming Sunday. Not next Sunday. Don't come next Sunday. Nobody will be there. This coming Sunday on the 19th. And so you can hang out with us. We hope to see you guys there. 4234 Electric Road, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018. And if you want to talk about it, go into the Discord server. We'll have the information in there as well. You can check out the free part of the server by going to badgernation.online. And hopefully we'll see you guys there. All right. So with all that said, we got to go into the patron show because we're going to be looking at pink news and whatever the hell they're talking about. So if you guys want to join us, become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord where you'll be able to look at all the additional content and hopefully you'll be able to, that includes this patron show. So anyway, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.